Hi, friends. This is the reading lesson for second grade. This is part 2 of Earth's Changes. Before we get started reading the rest of this story, let's go back to the beginning and review what we read yesterday. So I'm just going to read through our main ideas. On page 18, we learned that water and wind can change the way our planet looks, and we call that water erosion or wind erosion. On page 19, you had to fill in some blanks, but we said moving water such as blank, blank, and the change or blank, blank changes the land. So you could have said oceans, rivers, lakes, streams, and floods. Those all do something to change the earth, and some do more than others. And on page 21, we said wind changes the earth by blowing bits of blank, and blank. So you should have said rocks, soil, and sand. There it is. Rocks, soil, and sand. All right, so now we are going to learn about different ways that scientists have reported of how we can figure out ways to lessen the damage when it comes, because it's sometimes inevitable, and scientists have studied hard to figure out what can we do to prevent these major damages. So let's get started. Remember to highlight as you are reading, and then we're going to write 2 main ideas today.
How can we control water and wind? Water and wind can cause a lot of damage to Earth. They can cause damage to people's things too. Scientists have figured out many ways to try to lessen the damage.
Hurricane Katrina caused rivers in New Orleans, Louisiana to flood. This caused a lot of damage to the city. Walls called levees were built higher to better protect New Orleans in the future.
Walls can be built around rivers that flood when it rains heavily. A wall can also keep ocean waves from striking land. Sometimes homes are built close to shore. A wall can keep them safe from ocean water. A wall of trees can help slow wind erosion. It can help keep farmers' crops healthy. The trees can block the wind from blowing away the crops.
So here we learned that, we know that water and wind can cause a lot of damage to our earth. And that's that first sentence in paragraph 10, kind of setting the tone for what this section's going to be about. So one of those ways that we can lessen the damage is walls can be built. They can be built around rivers that flood, and they can also keep ocean waves from striking the land. So if you wanted to highlight more of that about the rivers and the oceans, you definitely can. And the wall can keep homes that are built close to the ocean safe as well. And instead of a wall, like a concrete wall, you could build a wall of trees to help slow the wind erosion. The trees would kind of block the wind from blowing away the crops. Pretty fascinating, huh? And if you just look at those pages on those pictures on page 22, oh my gosh, tons of damage. I mean, so many things to look at here. This is a giant tree that was uprooted, okay, from some kind of winds, I assume. This is a flood in this middle picture. Look at these children. They are in waist deep water, probably walking on a sidewalk or something, or a street. And this one is fascinating. Look at this car. This car is just up in the air. How does that even work, right? Crazy. All right, let's go ahead and look at page 24.
Conclusion. Water and wind can wear away Earth's surface. They can change the way Earth looks. Some of the changes are brought about by erosion. Storms can have strong winds and cause flooding. Strong winds and floods can change and damage Earth's surface as well as people's possessions.
River in Scandinavia. Maria Island, Tasmania, Australia.
Erosion and storms occur naturally. They are nature at work. Sometimes beautiful canyons are created. Sometimes rocks with amazing shapes are formed. Sometimes things can get damaged. Scientists are working hard to find ways to lessen the damage that water and wind can cause.
Now, you might have highlighted a lot in these 3 paragraphs because they kind of talk about everything that we've talked about and learned about in this story, and that's okay. So, we have learned that water and wind can wear away the Earth's surface. We know that storms or strong winds and floods can change and damage the Earth's surface as well as people's things, right? We know that sometimes erosion can create beautiful things. Look at Maria Island. Look at that picture. That is amazing, right? So we know that sometimes so I'm actually going to highlight erosion. Sometimes beautiful canyons are created. Sometimes rocks are formed into amazing shapes. But all in all, we know things can get damaged, right? And we also learned that scientists are working hard to find ways to lessen that damage the water and wind can cause. Okay, so I highlighted a lot. If you highlighted a lot, no big deal. It still works out just fine. All right, my friends, we are going to go back to page 22 and 23 and write our main idea for what scientists are doing to help control the damage. So, we learned that there are 2 main ways for scientists to help manage the damage, manage the wind, manage the floods, right? So that's kind of what we're going to say in our main idea. So we'll start with scientists have found ways such as, and here's where you're going to do your fill in the blank. So now technically they're both the same type of thing, but they talk about 2 different things. So paragraph 11, look and see what we highlighted, and paragraph 12, look and see what we highlighted. So scientists have found ways such as blank and blank to lessen, the damage from water and wind. So that one's a little bit of a long one. There we go. So what have they started doing to lessen the damage from water? That's your first one. And wind. That's your second blank. So go ahead if you want to pause the video and write that in. You can. You will then submit that to me on Canvas. And on page 24, we will write our final main idea. We are going to do this one all together. And basically, we know that water and wind can create beautiful things, such as what we see on page 25. But we also know that they can change and damage the things around, right? So they're good and they're bad. So water and wind create things that are beautiful, but they can also change, and damage things. There we go. So go ahead and write that down for your final main idea in this story, this informational science text. And that is it for our lesson. I hope you learned some cool things about water and wind erosion. And make sure you submit your other main idea on Canvas, and I will see you guys later.